Good evening, champions. Let me start with something bold. Your birth month doesn't lie. Now, I'm not talking about astrology, zodiac signs, or moon phases. I'm talking about divine timing, purpose, and destiny. You weren't born by accident. You were born on purpose, with purpose, and for a purpose. God doesn't make random. Now, let me break this down with 4 key points that'll help you unlock what your birth month is really trying to tell you. We're born in a specific season for a specific reason. That might sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever hear. See, the moment you came into this world was not a random occurrence. It wasn't the result of chance or coincidence. It was a deliberate act of divine timing. You were set in motion by the creator of the universe to arrive exactly when you did, because that moment was tailor-made for you, and you were tailor-made for that moment. Think about it like this. Everything in nature is born in its appointed season. Apples don't grow in the dead of winter. Tulips don't bloom in August. Everything that exists in the natural world has a time, a window, a season where it flourishes best. And just like the trees and flowers, you were designed to blossom in the conditions that were present when you arrived on this earth. God looked at the tapestry of time, saw a need, and said, this is the perfect moment for you to begin. Some people spend their whole lives wishing they were born at a different time. They say, if only I had been born in a different generation, if only I had started earlier, if only I had more time. But the truth is, your timing was never off. You weren't late. You weren't early. You were right on schedule. God doesn't miss appointments. He doesn't operate on random. He works on purpose. And you've got to stop second guessing what heaven planned with precision. Your birth season carries with it a unique spiritual signature. If you were born in the spring, your spirit may be drawn to renewal and rebirth. Maybe you're someone who brings fresh energy into old spaces, someone who helps people begin again. Maybe you're a seed planter, a starter, a visionary. If you were born in summer, maybe you were made to endure the heat, to stand in intensity, to shine bright when others hide from the fire. Summer, people are often leaders, frontliners, bold and unshaken. If you came in the fall, maybe you were made to reap and help others harvest what they've sown. Maybe you have a spirit of gratitude, a knack for gathering, for collecting wisdom and offering it to others. And if you were born in winter, you might carry a gift of resilience, because nothing beautiful seems to grow in the cold, but beneath the surface, deep roots are formed. God gives seasons not only to the world, but to people. And your birth month is more than a date. It's a signal. It says you were formed to be this kind of person with this kind of resilience and this kind of gift. And that gift is needed now in the time you live, not some other time. You were born into a specific generation for a specific assignment. There are people alive today who need the wisdom, the strength, the perspective you carry. And if you don't rise to that calling, those people might go without what only you could give. This is not about ego. It's about obedience, because when God designed your birth moment, he wasn't just thinking about you. He was thinking about the people you would impact. He was thinking about the family you'd influence, the business you'd build, the lives you'd touch. If you were born a leader, that means someone out there needs to be led. If you were born a healer, someone out there is in pain. If you were born a visionary, someone out there is stuck in a fog and needs your clarity. But here's the part most people miss. Your season doesn't just tell you who you are, it tells you how you thrive. Too many people are frustrated because they're trying to live out of sync with their season. They're trying to force springtime energy in a winter chapter of their life. They're trying to reap harvest in a planting season. When you understand the nature of the season you were born into, you begin to understand your natural pace, your spiritual cadence, and your God-given wiring. That alignment changes everything. Because once you stop fighting your timing, you start flowing in your assignment, things get easier. Not because the work is easy, but because the resistance goes away. You're no longer working against your design, you're working with it. That's when doors open. That's when people start noticing your presence. That's when impact multiplies. You don't have to chase every opportunity. The right ones will start chasing you. There is no power in wishing to be someone else or to be born somewhere else. There is only power in embracing who you are, when you are, and why you are. And when you do that, the frustration you've been feeling turns into focus. The confusion turns into clarity, and the fear, that turns into fuel. So I'll say it again. You were born in a specific season for a specific reason. Your life is not an accident. Your birth month carries a message. It is heaven's whisper that says you are right on time. Walk in that truth and everything changes. Purpose is hidden in patterns, not always in the big dramatic moments, but in the daily rhythms, the repeated tendencies, the decisions you make without thinking twice. Your life isn't just a series of unrelated events. It's a canvas, and God is painting a picture. The strokes may look random up close, but step back and you'll start to see design, you'll start to see order, you'll start to see a pattern. And within that pattern, your purpose is waiting. We live in a world that idolizes breakthrough, moments when everything changes overnight. But purpose often doesn't show up in a breakthrough, it shows up in a breadcrumb. One piece at a time, one lesson, one failure, one repeated desire you can't shake. That's where the trail begins. See, God doesn't usually shout your purpose from the mountaintop. He weaves it into your experiences, your personality, your pain and your passions. And if you never stop to notice the pattern, you'll miss the whole point. Think about the things you keep coming back to. What do you talk about when no one's paying you? What do you research in your free time? What problems frustrate you the most? That frustration isn't random. That pull isn't by accident. Those things that tug at you consistently, that's purpose disguised as pattern. That's heaven trying to show you a calling you've been walking around in for years without recognizing. But here's what often happens. Instead of studying our patterns, we ignore them. We get bored with repetition. We think, why does this keep happening to me? Instead of asking, what is this trying to teach me? Repetition is revelation. If something keeps showing up in your life, there's a reason. Patterns are God's way of guiding you without using a loudspeaker. He's training you to notice. He's trying to lead you to your assignment through consistent experience. And this isn't just spiritual fluff. It's real. Entrepreneurs find it in their pain points. Maybe you went broke and realized your mind was wired for business. Counselors find it in their empathy. Maybe you always end up as the friend everyone runs to. Creatives find it in childhood. Maybe you couldn't stop drawing, building, or imagining things no one else saw. Those aren't hobbies. They're here. Let me make it plain. The most significant parts of your purpose are often hidden in the patterns you've been overlooking. But you'll never unlock them if you don't slow down and study them. That's why I tell people, take inventory of your life. Look at what keeps showing up, especially the things that feel ordinary to you, but extraordinary to others. Because what feels normal to you might actually be your superpower. You're so close to it, you become blind to its value. That's why patterns matter. They help us see what we've normalized that the world desperately needs. Some of you have been asking God to show you your calling, your breakthrough, your big assignment, but he's already shown you. He just didn't wrap it in fireworks. He wrapped it in familiarity. And because it's familiar, you've discounted it. You've been looking for something spectacular, but God's been working through something consistent. Now, here's another thing. Patterns don't just reveal your gifts, they also expose your limitations. If you find yourself sabotaging relationships over and over, that's a pattern. If you keep quitting things right before they take off, that's a pattern. If every time you get close to success, you pull back out of fear, that's a pattern too. And guess what? Those patterns are clues. They show you what to heal because your purpose isn't just about what you do. It's about who you're becoming. The enemy knows this too. That's why he attacks you in patterns. He's not creative. He's repetitive. He uses the same lies, the same insecurities, the same distractions over and over because he knows they work. But if you start recognizing his patterns, you can break them. And when you break toxic patterns, you make room for divine ones to grow. It's all connected. The patterns of your past are shaping the possibilities of your future, but only if you pay attention. Only if you stop treating your experiences as isolated events and start connecting the dots. Because when you start recognizing the patterns, you start seeing the purpose. And when you see the purpose, your life takes on a new momentum. Things stop feeling random. Your pain starts making sense. Your past stops being a weight, starts being a weapon. You realize that all along God was forming something out of what felt like nothing. All along, he was writing a story in chapters, even if you thought you were stuck on the same page. That's why your daily decisions matter more than you think. Purpose isn't usually about one big decision. It's about 100 small ones made consistently. And when those decisions form a pattern aligned with your God-given design, that's when you step into flow. That's when you move from striving to thriving. Because now you're not chasing purpose. It's been in your pattern all along. So look closer. What keeps showing up? What have you dismissed because it was too simple, too frequent, too familiar? That might be the very thing God wants to use to take you to the next level. Your purpose isn't hiding from you, it's hiding in plain sight. And it's been doing so through your pattern. Delay doesn't mean denial. That's a truth most people don't like to hear, especially in a world where everything is about speed. Fast food, fast money, fast fame. We've been trained to think that if something doesn't happen right now, then it's not going to happen at all. But that's not how purpose works. That's not how calling works. And that's not how God works. God is not in a hurry, but he's never late. His timing is perfect, and his delays are never denials. They're often preparations. But the problem is we confuse motion with progress. We think that just because something isn't moving, it's dead. But delay is not the absence of movement, it's the presence of development. When a seed goes into the ground, you don't see growth for a while. There's no green sprout breaking the soil, no flower, no fruit. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Underneath the surface, that seed is establishing roots. And without roots, it can never sustain growth when it does finally rise. That's the same with your life. Sometimes God puts you in a delay to make sure your roots are deep enough to handle the weight of the blessing he's about to bring. If he gave it to you too soon, you'd fumble it. You'd squander it. You'd think it was your talent or your charm that got you there, not realizing it was his grace all along. Delay humbles you. It prepares you. It builds the character your calling will require. Some of you are in a season right now where you're asking, why hasn't it happened yet? You've got the dream, the vision, the plan. You're putting in the work. You're praying, fasting, staying faithful, but it still hasn't clicked. The money's not coming. The doors aren't opening. The people aren't showing up. And you're tempted to believe that maybe it's not meant to be. But let me tell you, delay is often a sign that it is meant to be. Because if it didn't matter, the enemy wouldn't be fighting it. If it wasn't significant, the resistance wouldn't be so strong. Delay tests what you really believe. Anybody can be faithful for a few weeks. Anybody can be hopeful for a month. But can you still trust God in year 3 when nothing seems to be happening? Can you still speak life over your vision when the bank account says otherwise? Can you still prepare for rain even when there's not a cloud in the sky? That's where delay separates the interested from the committed. When God delays something, he's not punishing you, he's positioning you. Think about Joseph. He had a dream that one day he'd be in a place of leadership, but before that dream ever came true, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. That's over a decade of delay. But every step of the way, God was sharpening him, teaching him how to lead, how to serve, how to interpret visions, how to stay righteous in dark places. But when the promotion finally came, he wasn't just ready, he was trusted. And that's what God wants for you. Not just success, but the ability to handle success with integrity. The delay also reveals your identity. When things don't go your way, do you start calling yourself a failure? Do you start thinking you're behind? Or do you remind yourself, I'm exactly where I need to be. This is just part of the process. Because what you say to yourself in the delay determines how you walk into your destiny. If you let delay define you, you'll settle for a fraction of what was promised. But if you let it refine you, you'll be ready to receive the whole blessing. And hear this, just because someone else's breakthrough came sooner doesn't mean yours isn't coming. You can't compare your timing to theirs. You don't know what they're carrying. You don't know what battles they've fought. And you don't know what God has in store for you. Jealousy and a delay is a distraction. Don't waste your waiting season watching someone else's highlight reel. Stay focused, stay planted, stay faithful, because when it's your time, no devil in hell can stop what God's doing. What's yours is yours. Delay didn't take it away. Delay just made sure it would last when it came. Sometimes God is making the blessing better. Sometimes he's working on the hearts of the people you'll impact. Sometimes he's waiting for you to learn a lesson that would otherwise sabotage the whole thing. Look at Moses. He didn't step into leadership until he was 80 years old. That's not late. That's God's timing. Look at David, anointed as king while still a teenager, but didn't sit on the throne for years. That wasn't rejection, that was preparation. Even Jesus himself didn't start his public ministry until he was 30. Delay didn't mean God changed his mind. It meant God was getting everything in place for maximum impact. So let this sink in. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Just because you're waiting doesn't mean you're wasting time. You're being prepared, not punished. You're being developed, not denied. And when God finally says, now, you'll realize why you had to wait. Because what's birthed in delay is sustained in destiny. So keep building, keep believing, keep preparing like the door's about to open, because it is. Delay doesn't mean denial. It means destiny is still in motion. Prosperity begins when you partner with your season. That means true abundance. Real, lasting success doesn't come from hustling harder, chasing every opportunity, or copying what worked for someone else. It comes from alignment. It comes from recognizing the season you're in, understanding what that season requires from you, and adjusting your mindset, your actions, and your faith accordingly. You can't prosper fully outside of alignment, no matter how gifted, talented, or driven you are. Because prosperity isn't just about having more. It's about walking in divine rhythm. You see, every season in your life is pregnant with potential, but potential can only turn into prosperity when it's stewarded correctly. Think of the natural world. Farmers don't try to harvest in winter or plant in the middle of a drought. They study the season, they wait for the signs, they prepare the soil, they sow at the right time, and they reap at the right time. And if they miss that window, if they try to operate outside the season, they end up exhausted and empty-handed. We do the same thing spiritually and professionally. We're trying to force a harvest in a season where we're supposed to be planting. We're trying to launch when God is telling us to learn. We're pushing for visibility when he's pulling us into obscurity for refinement. And then we wonder why our efforts aren't yielding results. It's not because we're broken. It's not because we're cursed. It's because we're out of sync. You have to ask yourself, what season am I in right now? Is this a season of preparation where God is calling you to build behind the scenes, study more deeply, or work on your character? Or is it a season of sowing where you're planting ideas, launching projects, or investing resources with faith that they'll grow? Or maybe you're in a harvest season and it's time to scale, lead, or reap the results of what you've already sown. Knowing your season changes everything, because what works in one season can become disobedience in another. Prosperity flows to people who know how to cooperate with their season. That means if God has you in a quiet, hidden season, you don't resent it, you respect it, you lean into it, you understand that the quieter the season, the deeper the work he's doing in you, and if you honor that, you'll come out with strength and substance. But if you fight the silence, if you resist the slowness, you'll miss the preparation that was meant to sustain your next level. Some people think prosperity is just about money. It's not. It's about fullness, peace, purpose, power, provision, and positioning. You can have a full bank account and an empty soul. You can have a platform, but no peace. That's not prosperity. That's performance. And performance will always exhaust you because it depends on what you can produce. Prosperity, on the other hand, flows from purpose. It flows from knowing I'm exactly where I need to be, doing what I was created to do, and trusting that everything I need will come as I walk in obedience. Prosperity is attracted to alignment. When your actions match your assignment and your faith matches your focus, the results begin to multiply. Doors open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities come that you didn't hustle for. People show up that you didn't even know you needed, because now you're no longer working for prosperity. You're working with it. You become a partner with your season. Let's be honest. Most of us struggle with this because we don't like waiting. We don't like letting go. We want everything now. But real growth requires discernment. You have to know when to pause, when to press, and when to pivot. Timing matters. Pace matters. There's a rhythm to every great success story, and that rhythm is usually tied to seasons of development, delay, stretching, and eventual acceleration. Even Jesus understood seasons. There was a time for his public ministry, and there was a time to remain in the temple, learning, growing, and preparing. If the Son of God didn't rush his season, why do we? Sometimes God holds you back because he's preparing something bigger than you imagine, and he wants to make sure you don't mishandle it when it shows up. Here's another truth. When you partner with your season, you protect your peace. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's. You stop feeling like you're behind. You stop trying to force outcomes. Instead, you wake up with purpose, move with clarity, and trust that if you do your part, God will do his. That kind of trust is magnetic. That kind of peace is powerful. And that's the kind of environment prosperity loves to grow in. Prosperity isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by being who you were created to be in the moment you were created to be it. When your inner world aligns with your outer actions, when your soul is in rhythm with your season, everything starts to flow. Ideas click, resources come, relationships align. Why? Because you're no longer fighting the season, you're flowing with it. So if you feel stuck right now, don't just ask, what do I need to do? Ask, what season am I in? Because that question will reveal the strategy. That question will tell you whether to move or wait, speak or listen, invest or prune. And once you know your season, prosperity becomes not just possible, but inevitable. You partner with your season, you stop striving and start stewarding. You stop hustling and start harvesting. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to partner with God, with timing, and with the purpose for which you were born. That's when real prosperity begins. So I'll say it one more time. Your birth month doesn't lie. You were born in a specific time to do a specific thing with a specific calling. Don't ignore the clues. Study the season, honor the pattern, trust the process, walk in power. And remember this, you weren't born to be broke, broken, or average. You were born for greatness. I walk in it.